Good evening. Good evening. Oh my goodness. That was beautiful. I saw something on Facebook that says if the speaker who gets up and says good evening, then people go, good evening, and you go, oh, that wasn't very good, do it again. I immediately do not like you. So we didn't even have to do that because that was amazing. So I greet you tonight in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred. And we are so glad to be together on these Wednesday nights, and we are always kind of small but mighty, and that, the energy of whenever two or more are gathered together, the energy is just amazing. And so let us take a moment in prayer, center ourselves, allowing the outside world to drop away for this moment, for this hour, knowing that we are coming together in a way that we share our consciousness, we expand our consciousness together, we learn together because we share and we ask questions, and we know that we are working on becoming our highest and best in all ways when we do these kinds of activities. And we give thanks for our guest tonight, knowing that as she tells her story, we will go even more deeply into our own hearts and our own stories and learn what we can from her and take that out into the world and spread that consciousness. And we say thank you, God. So our guest tonight, and by the way, Ira, I forgot we may have a Q&A. So at some point, Patty might need a microphone. Thank you. Our guest today was born in San Francisco. She's a Northern California native. And she was a college graduate on the fast track to corporate America. And then addiction caused her life to, take a turn. She inevitably found herself strung out and on the street. And then at some point, she found herself in a homeless center. The Modesto Gospel Mission, and that was where she discovered poetry. And she stayed there for 18 months, and then we will find out how she came to Sacramento. But she discovered poetry. She actually sent me a video of one of her poems, and I said, we have to get to know you. But she came to Spiritual Life Center, and she says that is helping change her life as well. And I'm just really excited about hearing Ruby Hawke's story. Welcome, Ruby. Good evening. It's nice to see you here.
You too. I'm excited to be here.
So we always start these conversations not knowing quite where they're going to go. And I always just like to say most of us here in this room we've had a lot of adventures because we've been on the planet for a while. But how did you start? Did you have a spiritual upbringing?
My upbringing was very polarizing. So I had two families. I went back and forth between my dad and then my mom and my stepdad. And my mom and my stepdad were, more specifically, my mom was involved in like a magic group, like a Wiccan group when I was little. So we had that, and then we would go to my dad's on the weekend, who was a heroin addict in a bad part of San Francisco. And so we'd go back and forth between upper middle class San Francisco and then this heroin hotel in downtown San Francisco, and where my sister and I were just exposed to a lot of bad things. And so it was very polarizing and very confusing.
And yet you ended up getting through high school, going to college, and were you in graduate school at that point, or had you just...
No, so because of the just a lot of trauma and stuff in my childhood, I ended up pregnant with my first daughter at 15, and then by the time I was 19, I had two kids, and at that point, I decided, and I was an addict, and I decided, I need to get clean for my kids and go back to school. I had dropped out of school in the 9th grade, and so I got clean for the first time at 21, and stayed clean for 5.5 years and put myself through college. And I a business student, and I was going to get an accounting degree because I wanted to make lots of money, and that was kind of and I wanted to show my girls what it looked like for a woman to overcome adversity and succeed. And so I spent that whole time kind of promising them, things are going to be different. Mom's going to be done with school, and things are going to be so much better. And then I relapsed 3 days before I graduated. I still graduated, but I was on the day of my graduation, this day that I had been looking forward to for years and envisioning. I was high, and then things just took a really tragic turn, and within a year I had lost everything, including my kids.
So we were talking about this earlier, and so obviously there was a lot of years of that kind of thing going on, but at some point, because we don't need to go through all that,
Yeah.
the turning point, because it sounds to me like you went through more than one round of getting clean and doing that whole recovery thing. So where was it that you finally, what made the difference? How did you finally get there?
Yes. So after 20 years of that, after 20 years of being addicted and just all the chaos and trying to get clean over it again and in and out of hospitals and jail, my addiction finally put me on the streets, and so I was homeless, like unsheltered homelessness. And that really, when you cross over into unsheltered homelessness, it's a whole different world. And for me, it was really tragic and scary and traumatizing. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. And I thought, I don't have this in me to do it. And so I had found I was in a mental hospital in Sacramento, and I found this flyer there for the Modesto Gospel Mission New Life program. And it was 18 months. I thought, I need to get there. It took me months to get there, just through all the chaos of using, but I finally got there. And I walked up, and it was I've never been to Modesto before, ever. And it's in this bad part of Modesto, and it's everything you could imagine about an overcrowded homeless shelter. And I walked up there, and I'm like, oh, what am I getting myself into? But I had nowhere else to go. And so there I was. You want me to tell a little? Okay, so there I am at this homeless shelter, and this is April 1st, 2021. And it's a program, but it's inside the homeless shelter. So there's it's a big house, and the women that are trying to get clean, but there's 12 of us, we're upstairs, but the homeless shelter is downstairs. And part of our job is to help take care of the homeless guests. It was this interesting kind of setup. And so we're around people that are using drugs and in all kinds of different mental health crises, emergencies. And there I am. And we kept getting COVID outbreaks. And so I lived there for 18 months. I had COVID 4 times in 18 months. And so I'm there around all this chaos and tragedy, but I'm clean, and I'm watching just everything that you can imagine that goes on in a homeless shelter. People are at the worst point of their lives. And I think, and because we were quarantined there, because we kept getting COVID, we couldn't leave. And I'm a person that's highly sensitive to energy. Something started churning inside of me, and I started waking up in the middle of the night, and with these images in my mind, and like this need to write. And I've never written poetry before, and it's really as confusing as it was at the time. And I look back, and it's really this phenomenal time, because I was waking up in the middle of the night and like writing this performance poetry. And mind you, I'm in this homeless shelter. We can't leave. There's no privacy there. And I'm in the yard, and there's all these people around me. And I'm like, when I write poetry, I have to move and yell. And so I'm like yelling and moving my arms around, but it was ironically the perfect place to do it because there's a lot of people there with mental illness, so I like kind of fit right in, just, you know what I mean, serious. And I just didn't care, like it needed to come out, you know. What was the other part of it is that this place was run by a very conservative religious group, and I was. When I got there, I claimed, well, I don't believe in God, you know, but I'm there in this program, I have nowhere to go, and we're having to do all these Bible studies, and they're teaching us that we're sinners and that we need to repent, and I'm looking around, and I'm looking at this room of women who have went through some of the most traumatic things in their lives, and I'm watching them as this teacher, the person that's running it, is telling them that they're sinners, and I'm like, oh, this isn't right, you know, but I didn't really know what right was. I just knew that that wasn't it, you know. And so a lot of the poetry that I wrote in the beginning, it has kind of it draws some on the Bible, but my perception of it, I just knew that what they were teaching was not the right way, but I didn't know what was the right way. It was there that I came across, as I'm there, you know, studying the Bible and stuff, I was thinking, I was seeking something else. I knew there was something different, and I didn't know what it was, and this is funny. I was trying to think, well, what do I look for? What am I seeking? And I Googled, I'm not even kidding, I Googled Oprah's top five books for finding spirituality. And one of those books was Michael Singer's Untethered Soul, okay?
We did that book for Faith in Action a few years ago. So, yeah.
Oh, really? And I read that, and I had never heard, you know, when it talks about that voice inside our head, and I wrote an expert here out of it. It really meant so much to me at the time. Now I look at it and I'm like, okay, but at the time it says, true personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. This is done by constantly remembering that you are the one inside that notices the voice talking. That is the way out. So when it said that is the way out, so noticing that voice in your head, that for me was just like groundbreaking. I didn't even really know what to do with it. And I can't say there was this huge shift, but there was this shift. And then I discovered the Course, and I'm there at this
You mean A Course in Miracles?
Course in Miracles. I'm at this homeless shelter where we're not allowed to read books like the Course, okay? And I'm reading the Course, and I'm there in the yard with all the craziness going on, like doing the exercises. And so I look back now. I've been out of there for not even a year now. I look back and I'm like, oh, that was just really a phenomenal time. You know, I don't think that even yet that I completely understand or appreciate how profound that period in my life was.
I mean, and I know that the poem that you're going to be sharing with us later, I mean, this all talks about the guidance. I mean, talk about, you know, God works in mysterious ways. Hey, let's put this crazy person in this crazy place and let her get sane.
Yes.
I mean, you know, that's kind of, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of, it put you in a place that was so safe for you to be whatever you needed to be to work it out.
Yes.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like it was a safe place, but really,
it wasn't.
But it
wasn't.
was emotionally safe for you, right?
Yeah,
it was emotionally safe, and that fundamentalist thinking probably put a little bit of a bumper around you while you were figuring it out.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
And this poem, I'm actually gonna, you know, there's that. I think that when you're trying to, a lot of what they talked about there was, you know, they teach, well, just love and trust God with all your heart. Well, what does that mean? You know, what if you've never experienced love? Or what if you've been through a lot of just horrendous trauma and abuse? And what does that even mean? What do you mean God loves me? And then anger about, if there is a God, why did he allow it to happen, you know? So this poem that I'm going to read.
Do you want to do it now?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to read it now. Oh, right there, okay. God, I looked for you in the burn rays of the scalding summer sun. On the night his fiery wrath became the breath of my scarlet letter song. I reached for you in the aftermath, my mother's unconscious stare. Her tears wet my young body, a burden no 3-year-old should bear. I begged for you in the backbend, my father's dance of disregard, as we leaped the lair of liars on his bloodlust landmine floor. Where were you, God, to save me? On the night of the waning moon, the slaughtering of my innocence, a red crimson crescent doom. You failed me, cried my sorrow, my bloodlet anguished rage, as reality lost its grip and I turned to drugs to ease the pain. Captured in the enticement of drug seductive slur, I snaked that black fandango, a nodding Nelly junkie girl, and now stolen from the sunset is the glory of your song. As my gaze now focused downward to that needle in my arm, imprisoned by the psychic warfare, mental torture, rerun rant. Come feed me now, I'm hungry, demands addiction's cackling chant. Enslaved by the seducing sorcerer and his poison pistol kiss, what I thought was supposed to love me almost killed me. God, don't let me die like this. It's in the prayer of the dying desperate when the light of God shines its way in the song of 1,000 angels, come and heal her broken wing. For the power of God's grace is formed strongest in the weak, a mighty force to back the weary and a light to guide the meek. And in that final hour, as death lay at my door, a voice called out my name, redeemed my soul from Hellgate's floor. Ruby, my sweet daughter, come to me, and you don't have to fight anymore, as I will love you like the daddy that you always wish you'd had, and I will hold you in my arms and release the pain when you are sad. And in those sullen moments when memories bring despair and the lies inside your head cast doubt, is God even real, and does God even really care? I will come to you in a whisper and remind you I have always been right here, that the story of your struggle is now the spirit of your strong, as your triumph has created the lyrical language that now sings your poetic song. Thank you.
So working through the abandonment from your parents and from God and from practically everything,
Yeah.
and and you started writing the poetry. Okay, so then you started doing that, and then you transitioned out of the homeless shelter, out of there, came to Sacramento.
Yes. So I'm at the homeless shelter, and I start writing this poetry, and more so like like call to action poetry about helping the homeless, mentally ill is a lot of what my poetry is about. And somebody heard me. Someone heard me at a coffee shop reading one of my poems, and he was the poetry teacher at the college. So he was the old poet laureate in Modesto. And he was like, I want you to come and read poem at the State Theater. And, you know, like, so there I am at this homeless shelter, okay? And I'm getting to go to the State Theater and perform this poem about the homeless, mentally ill. And I did that, and then I've done a few performances there, and so things just kind of started kind of opening up, and I thought, I thought as it was happening, I'm like, wow, the doors are opening. This is going to move into something professional for me. And the thing is like, I had this expectation, like it was going to happen really fast, and it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to, and so there was some letdown there, and sadness, like I'm not clear on what I thought. I thought God and I had this worked out, like I thought God was showing me this path, and now what, but then this opportunity came up for me to get to go back to school, to graduate school, and and so I applied to grad school, and boom, 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 it just happened like really fast. And so I moved here because my fiance works here in Sacramento. And so now I came here, and as soon as I got here, before I got here, I was working at a church, okay, the church that this homeless shelter, it was, okay. I moved here, and the first thing that I did was I Googled, like Unitarian Church or spiritual, Course in Miracle, like I'm Googling stuff, you know what I mean? And I went to the Unitarian Church here, and I liked it. And then I ended up here, and so I started coming here, and I just thought, it just felt like this place was my home, really. And the stuff that was being talked about was just like this is where my truth is, What was the question?
You think I would remember? No, well, it was like how you got here, but then you found the Spiritual Life Center. When you and I met that Thursday, had you come to service yet?
No. So this,
Okay.
This has to do with
This
you.
woman broke my heart. Go ahead.
So I looked on the Spiritual Life Center, and I saw that Deborah, it said on there, like, Deborah teaches a class there from, like, 10 to, and I, like, saw her picture on there, and she, like, has the gray hair, and she just, like, reeks mysticism, and I was thinking, I want what she has, and there's that whole, like, and I thought, I want to go to her class, I saw her picture, I wanted to go to her class, because there's that whole kind of, and I ended up coming, and she had canceled the class. I saw her out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
But then, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but I think it was the next time I came to service, and you were talking about something. But sometimes I think what we do is we look at somebody or something, and we're like, I want what that person has, as if we don't have it. And you made a mention about that. I can't remember how you said it, but it was like that we all possess, that we all possess. But I kind of had that. It's like, oh, if I go to her class, you know what I mean? Then I'll get something that I don't have, Ironically, I'm in a class with her now, but I don't have that same. It's like, okay, I have something to contribute too. It's not just.
Well, you're getting to know me, and it's like I'm not that. If you try to put me on a pedestal, I'll climb down so fast it'll make your head spin. I don't like heights. But that day. It was a very interesting day that we met, because it was hard for me to end my group. It was time to end it for a while, but that's where I get my spiritual, that's where I get recharged, is doing this spiritual exploration group. And for several reasons, I just needed to end it. They've been doing it for 7 years nonstop. And so, of course, there was no way to let new people. And so I came in for some reason. I was in the parking lot, and here this lovely woman comes up, and I could tell she was so excited, and I had to tell her we weren't doing it. I was in tears when I went inside, because I felt so badly. And then, of course, what happened was, after contemplation and finding this really cool book that we're studying, the Master Key System by Charles Hennell, I decided to restart the group. We started on Tuesdays. And so now Ruby is in the group, and it's, so continue the story now.
Yeah, it's, so what happened, the shift that I made, so I did, being at the homeless shelter for 18 months, the one thing I will say, even though we were very browbeat with conservative, religious sort of, the one thing I will say is that it definitely pointed me towards God, because we were having to pray and study in a way that I'd never had before. And so in their extremism, I kind of found some, I don't know, it was just the beginning. And what changed here is that what's just mind-blowing to me is this idea that we already possess everything that we already need. That, I'd never heard that before, and that we're whole, perfect, and complete just the way that we are. You know, change your thinking, change your life. That whole kind of concept is so new to me. And one thing that in this class that we're doing on Tuesday, I just love. But one thing that I wanted to read out of the book here, that it says, the things of the world are fluid to a power within man by which he rules them. You need not acquire the power, you already have it. But you want to understand it, you want to use it, you want to control it, you want to impregnate yourself with it so that you can go forward and carry the world before you. And it's like, I already acquire the power. Like that to me is just, it's affirming and empowering, and I feel like I'm on the beginning of, like, I don't know, opening up to something, but I'm not sure what. It just, when I read that the other day, I was crying because I said, really? Like, I have that within me? But it was like I already knew that I had it. Like I read that and I'm like, I already know that. You know, it's just remembering. It's like remembering, right? So there's something really like, we seek outside of ourselves for so long. If I just have this, if I just attain this, if I just have enough money or get this degree, then that's going to be what makes me happy. If I was just better at this, or I didn't have this fault, or I didn't struggle with this, but like to know that that I have that power within me is like powerful to me.
And it comes back to feeling safe and feeling loved, doesn't it? And when you grow up not feeling safe or feeling loved, then, you know, all of this is so foreign. And of course, I love that, you know, there's a tendency within our teaching to be a little hard on the fundamentalists. And the truth is that there's good in every single teaching. And it's, again, what you do with it or what you let it do to you. But that sometimes it takes that push to put you into that place where you can pray. And then you know, it's like when you're learning to write, you have to learn how to write in a certain way. You need grammar, you need punctuation, all of that. And then when you know how to use it, you get to break the rules.
Yeah.
Right? You can write poetry, which is like breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that freedom to be who you are. And so you're so excited about this, and my joke is I just love that we have people under 60 who are excited about this. You know, because this is an important teaching, and it's so neat to you know, see you so excited about it. And so, you know, what do you think you're going to do with it? I mean, and I realize that it's all going to change. You know, your degree is going to be in, your master's is going to be in social work.
Yes.
So you're going to go back and work with.
I want to work with the homeless, mentally ill, for sure. I think that they are one of the most marginalized, neglected groups in society, misunderstood, unsupported, and that just really is where my heart is. So I actually have I'm going to start an internship in August at Turning Point.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so that's going to be, so I'm going to get experience in working with that population. And so I'm still at the beginning of this. I'm like 4 months into my schooling now.
How much more do you have?
I have 2 years more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were having this conversation. I think this is an interesting conversation to have for other people, is that you were saying that as you're in your studies now, that the poetry isn't necessarily coming as fast and furious, and
Yes.
that was concerning you.
Yes, it is.
And what I said was, you're in grad school, honey.
I know.
And that just becomes all-consuming for a while.
Yes.
And also that isolation that you had allowed you to get all of that stuff out. And when you probably, my guess is once you're done with your studies and you can get your life back, it'll come out in maybe a more measured way.
Yes. Yeah.
Because when we go through changes, there's a lot of turmoil in that change.
Yeah.
And do you find this still frightening, or are you having fun with your awakening consciousness, or do you find moments where it's kind of scary? Because most of us find it kind of scary. So I'm curious what you think.
It is scary, which leads me into, I want to read this thing one other book that I read, A Return to Love. And this is another thing that just really resonated with me. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? And, okay, so the truth is my real dream is I do want to work with the homeless, mentally ill, but I really want to write speeches and include poetry in them. I've already written them. I just don't know. I'm just still trying to feel out how to go about proceeding with that. And yes, that part is scary for me because I don't know. And but I've written these really powerful pieces, I feel, and I just don't know quite what to do with it. That's where I'm at right now with it.
You seem to be pretty good at just putting one foot in front of the other and just letting it, and that's very hard. I mean, we want to be in control. We want, and of course that idea of being in control, we think it makes us feel safe, right? Mm-hmm. And of course we want to know what's going to happen because that makes us feel safe. And when we do that, we just limit ourselves so much.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's kind of nice to have some idea what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, so you're not alone. You have support, and you said that you have, and we won't go into that, but you have repaired a relationship with your children after all these years, and so your life has come back together in some very interesting ways.
Yes.
And you're not shy, and that's a good thing because you're.
I'm not shy. I will speak on. So I'll touch the poem that I read. One of the most beautiful things, I was talking to you about this before it started. We go through these really painful, the stuff that I went through with my dad, as traumatic, traumatizing as it was. That is what inspired the poetry that I started writing. And the poetry has really opened up this place in my soul. I don't know. It's so integral to who I am and part of me. So that it's almost like I can almost say, not that I'm glad that I went through that, but that I'm accept that I went through that because it was this. Because of what's happened, because of this gift that I've been given that I just love. I mean, I love to write the poetry. And so that's very healing. That part's very healing. I will say that, and I touched on this in group the other day, when I left my kids because of my addiction, like I said, after, right around when I'd graduated college, and they were 8 and 10 at the time. And my parents took them, and I never got them back because I could not get clean. And so the guilt and the shame around that is heavy, And and it's like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? Knowing like a memory will hit me, and I'm thinking about how they felt at this time when I didn't show up for birthdays, stuff like that. And for the first time, I got that feeling the other day, and I was thinking about my younger daughter, about not showing up to something and how she must have felt. And normally what I do when I start having those memories, I just completely avoid it. Like I get up and I try and do something. And I thought, let me just sit with this for a minute and and breathe into it and feel it for a minute. And I did that for just a couple minutes. And it hurt, like it hurts, But I think that's part of the answer, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm just on the beginning stages to sit with it and feel it and let it, I don't know, pass through me. You tell me, Deborah.
The all-knowing. Well, we did talk about this too. I mean, the thing is that we live in a culture that is very pain adverse. You notice if you go and look at the aspirin aisle, there's no aspirin or Tylenol or Aleve. It's all extra strength, or it's all extra strength, or it's all extra strength, and then of course you can take this other thing on top of it, because heaven forfend any American ever be in pain. I don't know what other cultures are like, but I watch our culture, and so that's part of it, is we're taught that being in pain isn't okay. And when we were talking about this, it's like you sat there in that pain, and guess what? You didn't die. And when you acknowledge that pain and can breathe through it, it will lessen. I was telling you an experience I had, and it was, I had gone through a breakup, and it was over at Christmas, and I was by myself, and I spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day intentionally laying in bed, letting myself be as miserable and as much pain as possible. And I worked through that so much faster by allowing myself to have the feelings. And I'm seeing more and more people writing about feel your feelings, feel your feelings. We live in such a, numb yourself culture. I mean, I find myself some nights when I'm tired, I'll just sit there and look at a website called Bored Panda, and it just, they get stuff from everybody else and compile it. And I realize I'm numbing myself out. And a little bit of that is called taking a break. Yeah. But then just, the avoidance of that pain, and we don't like being in pain, and no, it's not fun, but that's the only way we'll heal.
Yeah.
And I congratulate you on having the courage, because it does take courage to stay with that. Yeah. And things like children and, those are big, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. That's a really big deal to work through that guilt. And even though I'm guessing, and I'm not a parent, so I can't speak for this, but I'm guessing that even if you get the best relationship in the world with your children, and they forgive you and whatever, you're still going to carry some of that. Mm-hmm. Is that what parents? Yeah, that's what parents do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the pain thing, ignoring it only makes it worse, especially emotional pain. Right?
Yes. Yeah. It does.
Yeah. So I commend you on that.
Thank you.
On that endeavor, and doing it in small doses. I mean.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Because it is. It's. I was thinking as I was driving over here. Is this going to be something one day I'm over? I don't know. You just learn to live with it. You learn to live with it, and I don't know what the answer is on that one. That one's very at kind of the core of my pain is what happened with my children, and to be able to say the same thing that I did like about my dad. Oh, I'm glad that happened because it gave me the inspiration. That I can't say that yet about that. I can't. You know what I mean? I hurt them, and that's hard to grapple with. It is, but I have learned the other really neat thing about what's happening right now, just the way everything's. So I'm in the social work program, so we're learning about what happens when children grow up in traumatic environments, and just the different things. And it's so that on top of the stuff that I'm learning in this class and at the church, all that together, it's helping me to have compassion for myself. And I have never had that. I've never had that before. So that's just really a beautiful thing, right?
It is an absolutely beautiful thing, and you're just one of the most impressive people I've ever met in my entire life. I have to say that. And you just said a couple of magic words of getting over it. To be extremely shameless about advertising, I just did a podcast this morning that'll be posted this week called "Get Over It Isn't a Thing," because people will say, get over it. That's not a thing, you guys. And because when someone says get over it, they are disrespecting you, they are invalidating you. And I mean, I could go on, go listen to it. But the thing is we don't ever get over anything. We work through it. And you know what, you're such a great example of taking those experiences and integrating them into yourself and designing who you are through all of your experiences. Because that's what you're doing, is you're self-designing.
Yeah.
That's a great term, isn't it? We'll have to remember that. Yeah, you know, I mean, you're designing yourself. You're redesigning your entire self. Not just your life, but yourself.
And I think the thing is, the other very sad thing is this program that I went through, a lot of addicts don't make it, right? They don't make it. They don't get clean. They don't stay clean, and that's very tragic. And I think that one of my responsibilities, and I think it's the responsibility of anybody who kind of follows a spiritual path, is to reach out to people that are suffering. I will say this. When I was homeless, I think sometimes we forget that, when you're homeless, disrespect becomes the norm. And so kindness really, really does become a rarity, so much so that when it happens, it stands out for you. And so when I was in Sacramento, homeless on the street, and I had this blanket wrapped around me, and there was bed bugs in this blanket, okay? And I was in this park in Sacramento, and this woman walked across the street, and she asked me if I needed a jacket, and I followed her across the street to her house, and I stayed out on her front steps. And she went to the house and got a jacket and some grapes. And she sat and talked to me for like 2 hours, just talked to me and looked me in the eye like I was a real human being. And at the end of it, this is what's really, at the end of it, she gave me a hug, and as she pulled away, she looked me in the eyes and she said, like she had thought of something, she goes, "I'm gonna see you again one day." And this was probably 2 months before I went to the Modesto Gospel Mission. And it struck me, even at that time when I was high, so I wrote her name down and her address, and I put it in my pocket. And then this whole time later, I go to the Modesto Gospel Mission, and I'm there, and I find this woman's name and her number, and I wrote her a card, and I have not heard back from her. But what I'm saying is that small interaction with that woman that is nothing more than what you and I do with each other every day, which is extend kindness, meant that much. And I really believe that she really was the face of God for me in that moment. And I really believe that sometimes we think we have to do these monumental, grandiose. It's not. You really can. You can be the face of God for someone. You never know. You never know. And she was in that moment. I hope she knows. You know what I mean?
And it's the tiny things.
Yes.
It is the absolutely little tiny things. Did you find ever that because you had so much abuse that you had trouble accepting kindness from people, that you didn't trust it, you didn't believe it?
Yes. For a long time, it still is thinking that people are out to get me. And part of that could be part of that's the abuse, part of it's the paranoia from the meth for so many years, but really believing that people were, even when they're being nice, that they had this kind of motive, like they were going to do something to hurt me, and really believing that on like a, and yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while. I haven't, and it would be everybody around me. But hey, I don't think about that. I don't think that about you or the other ladies in the group. So that's an improvement.
Well, and I hope it says something about us as well. But but no, I mean, because I hear about this, and of course I don't know so much about men because, well, women express themselves more, and so many women we have so much trouble asking for help in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then if you're in that situation and you're not asking for help, you're begging, right? And you're a beggar. And so, there's no respect there. I mean, so having lost the respect of everybody around you, and now you're coming back, and of course now you've got all of these people who want to hear you and talk to you, and because you're teaching in your own way, and yes, you're learning, and yes, you're expanding your consciousness, but wow, when you really get this under your belt, I can't wait to see what happens next. I really can't. So yeah. So what else do you have to tell us today? We have a few more minutes.
Well, maybe I could read another poem. Is that okay? Okay. I'm going to read the other one, which I think is really it's called God to the Hurting Woman, and it's a conversation between. This is the poem that it's about my relationship with God, but it's to the women in that homeless shelter who were being told that they were sinners, and what I think that they needed to hear about God in that moment. And so it goes back and forth between me and God.
And this was a video you sent me.
Yes.
Yeah, she sent me just a link to this video, and I saw that, and I sent it immediately to Elaine and said, "You got to have her on Women of Spirit." And yeah, so that's what started this whole thing.
Surrender your life to follow God's lead. God's love is all powerful. You must trust and believe. But how do I do that? What does that mean? This love that you speak of, God, I have never even seen, for I'm the fear child. My life was a fight. My daddy in the daytime became my monster. At night brings on thunder and storm-wintered winds, a force of destruction so powerful. It will rip away at every one of your limbs like the dry branch. Brittled in pain, who cracks in the heartbreak every time someone says, I love you, they then walk away. Don't you know, God? I'm the lone one that no one would claim, for they say damaged is the tree that's been watered by shame, and broken is the heart of the little girl who so desperately needed your help, God. I screamed out your name, and you never came. And so when they ask if I trust and believe, well, I don't even know what you want me to say. Nothing, my child. I know the extent of your pain. I know every word of your story, every desire of your heart, for I wrote them. I have them engraved like your name on the palm of my hand, and there is something that I need you to understand. Come to me with your anger. Come to me with your pain. You can punch, kick, and scream. God, it is you that I blame, and I will sit here and listen and love you just the same as I did on the day you were born, as the day you gave your life to drugs' unwinnable war. I will always love you the same. For there is nothing in this world that you could do or say to change the way that I feel, for you are my daughter. You are my lost sheep, the one I chase down and claim. I'll leave the others behind to help you find your way, simply because I love you and because I chose you. You have not been forgotten. You have not gone unheard, and you are not alone, for I am right here. I have always been right here. I don't expect you to believe that right now, for I know the pain and the deception that wets every single one of your tears. So let me make this message unmistakably clear. The bad things that happened to you had nothing to do with me. That part was not me. You see, free will gives birth to authenticity and beauty and gives the freedom to choose, and some use it for good. And some misuse, and many, many others abuse, for this is a fallen world, and I am so sorry you were hurt. I know every detail of your pain, and I promise you, if you come back to me, that tragic part of your story will not be in vain, but you must come to me. I don't know how, God. You see, I'm scared. You see, I'm just trying to make sense of all that you said, because it's in direct opposition to every voice I have ever heard in my head telling me I'm unlovable and I'm undeserving of love. I have built an entire belief system on that. And now you've come to tell me that I've been misled? That the self-hatred I have suffered was all based on a lie? That I am worthy? And there's a purpose for my life? Because if that is the truth, Do you know what that means to me deep down inside? Like my glimmer of hope still miraculously shines, and I can stand in the mirror and look the world in the eye and walk down the street with my head held up high, because I have never had that. I'm so overwhelmed with an emotion right now that I can't even describe, like my heart has found this piece of the puzzle I've been searching for an entire lifetime. I've been looking for acceptance and love. No matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. For when you try to heal pain in all the wrong places, no matter how bad you want it or how desperately you chase it, you will never find it there. But I kept trying. And after so many years of the same pain and anguish, I had given up and I was ready to die. I was ready to die. And it was in that moment that God came to me and said, "Rise up, my daughter, for I need you alive. You are my strong one. You are my warrior princess. Your time here is not done. I know the plans I have for you. My plans to prosper you have only just begun. Come to me, daughter. And your life will be this representation of my glory as I will take the ashes from your trauma and mold your life into this beautiful story about the girl who overcame adversity and used her experience to lead many other people towards me. Come to me, daughter. And your greatest struggles will be the catapult on which you rise, the pain of your past now a tool to help so many other suffering lives. Nothing is wasted in my world, daughter. Come to me, trust me, give me your heart. I'm not saying it will always be easy, but even faith just the size of a mustard seed, that is all you need to start. Yes, you will stumble many times, but I won't let you fall because you are not alone anymore. Rise up, my daughter. Walk with me. Your name has been called. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby, for joining us tonight. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you, thank you. And you, if you want to stay up here during the offering, you can, or if you're more comfortable sitting down there,
Say it again.
You can choose what you want to. You can stay up here during the offering, or you can go back and sit down, whichever makes you most comfortable. So,
I'm gonna sit down. My energy's just going whoosh, like I have to decompress.
okay, so next week. I know. I have to talk about business now. So, a few days ago, Patty Peters and I were having just this casual conversation. And she pops up with this story about how when she was young and she was doing some daycare with her kids and some other kids, she saved the life of a baby from dying from SIDS. So we talked about that. And then she said, and then there was this time where, and I don't remember the story, where I, something happened and I saved this person's life. And then there was this other time when I also saved this other person's life, and then she looked at me and she said, and that was all in the same week. Now, I don't remember the details of the story because I was so blown away with it, and I don't think Patty had really realized how incredibly extraordinary. So I've invited her to come and tell that story next week. We're going to talk about how Patty is saving the world one person at a time. And she walked into my office. I said, we got to have a title for it, Patty. And she walked in, and she's laughing hysterically, as you notice she does. And she said, saving the world one person at a time. And she was doubled over laughing. And I said, that's it. She said, I was joking. And I said, I wasn't. So next week, we're going to hear the story of how somehow Patty Peters, was it Martin back then? Or was it even Martin? Somehow managed to save the lives of 3 people in 1 week. So, of course, we'll have the community meal at 6, and we'll come in here at 7. And then I believe, do we have the Women of Spirit? So Women of Spirit meets this week, and it's expressive meditation with Joy Sanowski. It's a Zoom-only meeting. And so you can go to our website, and you can get the link to the Zoom meeting. So that will be from 10 to noon, and again, it's Zoom only. So hope to see you all there. So now, let us just take the opportunity to support Spiritual Life Center. If you're watching us online, You can text SLC Love at 44321. I've learned it. Cool. Or, of course, you can always go to our website and click on the donate button, and, of course, you can mail something in. And if you want to help us continue to support Spiritual Life Center and spread this message, and what a great message to continue to spread out, click on share or subscribe or follow or whatever great button your app asks you to press, and keep this message going out and help support Spiritual Life Center, and we really appreciate when you do that. And so for those of us here, let us come together and say our blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Thank you, 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 thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Pouring down, your love is pouring down. Your love is pouring down. Your love is pouring down. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Let's stand, and I think we can make some kind of a interesting circle thingy and do our prayer for protection. Well, it kind of bothers people who like really good circles, and I like our amoeba.
Something that works.
There you go. An amoeba thing.
So thank you, Ruby.
Thank you, Ruby.
And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And let us say our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, I am, and all is well. And may the joys of the world go with you.
Yes.
See you next week.
Oh, that's very good. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
you.